My name is Alan Lindsay, and I was invited to be the author of the script and the presenter for this video series.
He was an author, theologian, composer, reformer, and probably the best-known religious figure of the 16th century. His name, Martin Luther. He was loved by the German masses.
The Keepers of the Flaim video series really started with a request from the South Pacific Division to present in a audio-visual form the history of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I had a burden to share this because I believe that God has wonderfully led in the establishment of this church. And so it was Gabe Renault who initially led out in the discussions after I shared with him about the possibility of recording our history in an audio-visual form. He ran with the idea. We decided to work out the content of a series, and then I was left for 6 months, given time off to do the scripting, and Cal Durrant, he entered the screenplay into the script, and we proceeded from there. It was Gabe Renault whose creative ability was so much involved. He was the one who decided to be presenting little artistic segments, recreating the history of the time, and he was also involved in the selection of actors because practically all of them were untrained, and Gabe certainly did a wonderful job. Kevin Townend, he was the sound engineer, and his encouragement throughout the process was an inspiration. And then we had Jan Gibbs and Russell Gibbs. Russell was the cameraman. Jan and her great organisational ability certainly helped such an involved project to come to a successful fruition. But with the years of preparation, we felt that the recording of the history in such an interesting way would reach people's hearts, and that's what we were concerned should happen. I think the series came to fruition particularly because of this interest that I had in the history of the church. I remember talking to Gabe Renault, who was later to become the director of the series, and we were talking over our back fence about the making of a series of pictures, film, video, dealing with the history of the church. And it was Gabe who really ran with the idea. We prepared the script together, and it was later suggested that we involve as many people as we can as actors, and also we should involve the actual location where history occurred, and the idea ran from there.
Bates published his 48...
I think the idea and the production of the video series would have taken about 3 to 4 years. When the first idea came in maybe 1987, and the first 2 episodes were completed by the General Conference in 1990, and I think the remaining episodes were completed in the following year. So it's about 3 or 4 years that it took to make the series. I think from a spiritual point of view, the most moving episode was again in the Waldensian Valleys. We wanted to do a shot in the Church of the Cave, which is a very historic place in the Waldensian Valleys.
This plaque indicates the location of the cave at the foot of the Castelluzzo that so often protected the Waldensian people during times of persecution.
It was a very moving experience for me to stand in that cave with the candlelight and the light of the tapers burning, and to remember all the sacrifice and all that had happened in those caves. I'd always hoped that the video series would be viewed by not only the young people in the church, but by those who are older and more established in the faith, because we were wanting to tell the history of the church, and I believe that the history of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is a marvellous history. And by looking at our history and recalling the sacrifice of those who had gone before, the people who had made the church what it is, I hope that people's confidence, both in God's leading in the Adventist Church and in the way that He has led over the years, would give them confidence in the church today, as well as give us purpose for the church of tomorrow. I rejoice too in in what it did for me in terms of knowing the role of young people in the church, because this church began with young people. They were all in their early 20s, and yet God used them in a mighty way. And it strengthened my convictions that God is going to finish the work by using young people in the same way.